everyone, and welcome back. Are you ready to dive deep and explore how programming is changing with AI?
Always ready.
You guys sent in some really fascinating material.
Yeah.
It really gets into how these large language models,
LLMs?
yeah, LLMs are really shaking things up when it comes to developing software.
Absolutely.
It feels like we're at a turning point, and there's some really big questions that come with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, how will these LLMs change what it means to be a programmer? What skills are going to be totally crucial?
Yeah, what do we need to know now?
Exactly. And are there any pitfalls we need to watch out for as we go down this road?
All right, are we going to fall into any traps?
All right, so let's jump in and explore all of this.
Let's do it.
The programming world is changing, right?
Yeah, it's definitely shifting.
It feels like it.
And you know the source material you shared?
Yeah.
It really gets this, like the ADER project.
Oh, yeah, I was fascinated by that.
It's amazing how they're using LLMs to actually generate a growing chunk of their code base with every iteration.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's almost like programmers are becoming more like, I don't know, architects or conductors.
I like that.
Guiding the AI and refining its output.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, instead of writing every single line of code.
Yeah, it really points to a future where programmers might focus more on the high-level design, collaborating with these AI systems instead of just writing line by line.
Yeah.
And this definitely brings a whole set of challenges and opportunities.
Right.
And understanding those dynamics is really key for anybody in software development today.
Okay, so how do we actually adapt to this changing world? What skills do programmers need to really thrive in this LLM-driven world?
Well, it's not like throwing out everything we know.
Right.
A lot of these essential skills actually build upon existing programming knowledge, but with that AI twist.
Okay.
Like take full stack development, for example.
Yeah, full stack.
It's becoming even more critical because LLMs, they thrive on data, right?
It is everything.
Processing it, storing it, retrieving it, all of that requires a deep understanding of how data flows through an application.
Makes sense.
And that brings us to databases.
Ah, databases. Not always the most exciting topic.
I know, right?
But I have a feeling it's about to get a lot more interesting.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
We're not just talking about storing simple data points anymore.
Right. It's way beyond that now.
Think of databases as the backbone for holding documents. Entire conversation histories, even vast knowledge bases.
So it's not just about choosing a database anymore. It's about understanding which type is the best fit for the kind of data LLMs need.
Precisely. So you've got MongoDB, for example.
Yeah, MongoDB.
It's great for storing unstructured data like conversation histories because it's designed to handle flexible data structures.
Okay, that makes sense.
On the other hand, if you need to maintain really strong relationships between data points,
Yeah.
a relational database like PostgreSQL might be a better fit.
Okay, so horses for courses.
Right, exactly. And then let's not forget about graph databases like Neo4j.
Oh, yeah, those are getting popular.
They're gaining traction, especially in applications using retrieval augmented generation, or RAG,
YAG.
where LLMs need to access and process knowledge graphs.
RG systems, that's something I've been hearing a lot about.
Yeah.
It seems like they're key to making LLMs more knowledgeable and context-aware.
Absolutely.
But let's not get sidetracked just yet. What other tools are essential for working with LLMs?
Well, search engines are playing a really big role.
Search engines, really?
You'll need to know how to use tools like Algolia and Qdrant to find the right information in that dynamic context for your LLMs. And this takes us into the world of embedding and vector databases.
Ooh, embeddings.
That's a whole other fascinating topic we could definitely delve into later if you'd like.
I'm putting that on the list. We've got to come back to that.
All right, sounds good.
But let's stick with the essentials for now.
Okay.
What else should programmers be adding to their LLM toolkit? What do they need to know?
Well, of course, the foundations are still critical.
The basics.
HTTP, JSON, APIs, they're the building blocks for communicating with LLMs.
Right.
But here's where it gets interesting. Clear communication becomes even more challenging when you're dealing with AI.
Oh, really? More challenging.
It's like you're debugging not only your code, but also the LLM's thought process.
Oh, wow. That's a great way to put it.
You have to be really careful about the format of your responses. Gracefully handle errors, even anticipate how the LLM might interpret things.
Okay, so it's a whole new level of thinking about how the communication is happening.
It is, yeah. And then we move into some more specialized areas like asynchronous operations.
Asynchronous operations.
Streaming, webhooks, events, all of those tools that let you have real-time interaction
Yeah.
and handle diverse data formats.
Right.
Plus, LLMs are increasingly able to process large
That's
files.
right.
So skills like uploading, accessing, transforming, and generating files become really important.
So a lot of this is about thinking through the user experience, even when we're dealing with what seem like back-end skills.
Absolutely. And speaking of user experience,
Yeah.
API design and documentation become even more crucial when you're building applications that interact with LLMs.
Okay, so those are really important now too.
You'll need to connect with existing APIs
Right.
and even create new ones that AI agents can leverage effectively.
Right.
And, familiarity with REST APIs and GraphQL,
Yeah.
those will be really valuable in this new world.
Cool.
And then last but not least,
What else is there?
don't underestimate the power of CI/CD and DevOps.
Oh, yeah. I can see how that would be even more important.
As AI agents gain the ability to run code and even deploy applications,
Right. They can do more themselves now.
automating deployment and managing those production environments becomes even more critical.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of.
It is.
This sounds like a pretty big toolkit.
It is, yeah.
Is it realistic for programmers to really master all of these skills? It's a lot.
It might seem daunting, but here's the exciting part.
Okay.
LLMs can actually help you learn and apply these skills more effectively.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So don't be afraid to experiment, build small projects. And remember that those strong programming fundamentals,
Right. The basics.
those are still the foundation for building sophisticated AI applications.
That's reassuring to hear. So it's not about replacing human programmers with AI.
Right.
It's more about using AI to augment our capabilities
That's the guy.
and then creating even more powerful applications.
You got it. Now that we've talked about the skills, are you ready to dive into how LLMs actually work?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into it.
It's time to go beyond those buzzwords
Yeah.
and really understand their thought process.
I'm all ears.
Excellent. The source material breaks it down into 3 core concepts:
Okay.
completion, chains, and agents.
Okay, I've heard those terms before.
Let's start with completion.
All right, complete.
It's the simplest level where you give the LLM a prompt
Right, a prompt.
and it generates a response.
Yeah.
You can think of it as a single step within your application.
Hmm.
And the source actually gives this great example with a function called addLabel.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It uses a pretty straightforward prompt to classify tasks based on text descriptions.
Yeah, that was a good example.
Yeah.
It really showed how LLMs can automate tasks with relatively simple prompts.
Right.
But it also highlighted that there's potential for errors because LLMs aren't always perfect
Yeah, they're not always going to get it right.
at understanding context or ambiguity.
That's an important point. LLMs aren't magic.
Right.
Their accuracy might be somewhere around like 70–90% for some tasks.
So not perfect, but still pretty good.
But even that level of automation can be really valuable,
Yeah.
especially when you consider how much it frees up human programmers to focus on those more complex and nuanced challenges.
So what happens when we need to go beyond those single-step completion tasks? What's next?
That's where chains come in.
Chains. Okay.
Imagine linking multiple steps together, where the output of one step becomes the input for the next.
I'm picturing like a sophisticated Rube Goldberg machine
I love it.
powered by AI.
Exactly. It's like orchestrating a whole series of LLM actions to accomplish this bigger, more complex goal.
Okay.
And the source material has a great example of answering questions about 3 different people.
Right.
Where the information is coming from different sources.
Mm-hmm.
So the LLM has to select the right information,
Okay.
load it into context,
Yeah.
and then generate this coherent response.
So it's bringing a lot of different things together.
It is, and this is how we start connecting LLMs to external tools, like web search, code interpreters, and even long-term memory systems.
Wow.
It gets pretty complex.
So chains are about providing structure and allowing LMs to tap into all these external resources.
Exactly.
Okay, what about agents? Where do they fit in?
So agents are a more dynamic and flexible way to use LLMs.
Okay, more dynamic.
They can adapt to situations and make decisions based on the information they have access to.
Right.
No, we're not talking about like fully autonomous sentient AI agents.
Like in the movies.
Right. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah.
But even with their current limitations, agents have incredible potential, especially within specific domains.
So it's not like a black and white thing.
Right.
It's more about how much agency something has.
You got it. Andrew Ng, he's a leading AI researcher. He puts it really well.
Yeah.
He says to think about solutions as more or less agency-driven,
Okay.
rather than a yes or no, agent or not.
Right, more of a spectrum.
It's a much more nuanced way to understand the capabilities and limitations of these systems.
Makes sense. So are there any real-world examples of these more dynamic agents in action? I'm really curious to see what they can do.
Absolutely. The source material mentions this really cool example called Cracker.
Cracker. Oh,
It's an AI agent designed to solve the super complex puzzle.
wow.
A puzzle that only a tiny fraction of human players could crack. And you know what? Cracker actually solved it by using tools to interact with the game environment.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So even with limited autonomy, these agents can do some pretty remarkable thing.
They really can.
So we've got completion as our building block,
Yeah.
then chains to provide structure and connect to those external resources,
Right.
and then agents representing this more dynamic and evolving approach.
Exactly.
Okay, it's starting to paint a clearer picture for me of how these LLMs operate.
Good.
But now let's get to the really practical stuff.
Okay, let's do it.
How do we know when to use these powerful tools?
Mm-hmm.
And just as importantly, when not to use them? When do they really add value?
Right.
And when might they just be overkill?
Yeah, when are they too much?
Exactly.
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Mm-hmm.
LLMs are really powerful tools.
Yeah.
But they're not a magic solution for every problem.
Right. It's about using the right tool for the job.
Exactly. You wouldn't use a sledgehammer to crack a nut. And that's where understanding those limitations of LLMs becomes crucial.
Okay, yeah.
For example, the source material mentions this interesting case where someone tried to use an LLM to remove duplicate email addresses.
Okay.
And it turns out a simple Google Sheets function did the job instantly,
Wow.
while the LLM took much longer.
Really?
It's a good reminder that sometimes those old ways,
Yeah.
they're still the best ways.
Sometimes the simple solution is the best one.
Absolutely. And it highlights that programmers really need to combine their existing knowledge with their understanding of AI.
Yeah.
Don't abandon those proven tools and techniques just because LLMs are the shiny new thing.
So it's about finding that right balance.
Right.
When it comes to LLMs, what are some of those limitations we should be aware of?
Well, one thing to consider is that LLMs aren't always efficient at processing massive data sets.
Okay.
You might need to break them down into smaller chunks.
Okay.
It's a technique called semantic chunking.
Semantic chunking.
But sometimes, a cleverly designed regular expression could process an entire book in milliseconds.
Wow, that's a big difference.
And another common pitfall is assuming that LLMs can just magically solve problems with messy or fragmented data.
Right, they're not miracle workers.
A lot of companies rush to build chatbots to interface with their knowledge bases.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But if that data is scattered across all these different systems,
Right.
a traditional search engine might actually be a much more efficient solution.
So it's not just about the LLM itself.
Right.
It's about the whole data ecosystem surrounding it.
Precisely. And the key takeaway here,
Yeah.
combining your programming expertise with your AI knowledge is essential for making smart decisions
Yeah.
about when and how to use LLMs effectively.
Okay, so really think it through.
Always ask yourself,
Yeah.
do I really need an LLM for this?
Right. Is it the right tool?
And what are the costs and benefits? This deep dive is all about empowering you to make those informed choices.
I love that. It's not about blindly adopting new technology. It's about understanding its strengths and limitations,
Right?
then using it strategically.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of understanding how things work, can we get into the nitty-gritty of how code and LLMs actually interact?
Sure.
This source material mentions this idea of flow engineering,
Yeah.
which sounds really interesting.
That's where we really start to see the magic happen.
Okay, the magic.
Think of flow engineering as designing the pathways
Okay, baffling.
for data to flow between your code and the LLM.
So how they talk to each other.
Features like structured output and JSON mode
Okay.
allow LLM to generate JSON objects,
Peace on.
which makes the interaction similar to working with a regular API.
So it's about creating this smooth, structured way for the code and the LLM to communicate.
Exactly. But there are different approaches to structuring that flow.
Okay, different approaches.
You can use prompt chaining,
Okay.
where you break a problem down into these smaller steps,
Smaller stuff.
and the LLM handles each step sequentially.
Okay.
Or you could use stepwise prompting,
Hmm.
where you craft one single complex prompt that encompasses the entire task.
So two different ways of getting there?
There's actually this really interesting publication called Prompt Chaining, or Stepwise Prompt,
Catchy title.
that explores this in depth.
Okay, so is one approach generally better than the other?
It really depends on the nature of the task
Mm.
and the level of complexity.
Okay.
But in many cases, prompt chaining actually offer some advantages,
Okay, what kind of advantages?
especially when you're dealing with these really intricate problems.
Okay.
Breaking things down into smaller, more manageable chunks
Right.
can lead to increased quality, accuracy, and control.
So it's kind of like the old divide and conquer strategy.
Exactly. And with prompt chaining, you also gain flexibility.
Okay.
You can actually perform additional actions or computations between those steps.
Tell me steps.
So you're enriching the whole process and making it more adaptable.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal of prompt chaining.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Can you give me a concrete example of how this might work in a real-world application? I'm having trouble picturing it.
Absolutely. Imagine you're building a text summarization tool.
Okay, text summarization.
Instead of just throwing that whole text at the LLM and hoping for the best,
Right.
you could use prompt chaining to create a much more nuanced and refined process.
Okay, so walk me through that. How would that look?
You could start with a compression step, where the LLM removes any unnecessary elements from the text.
Okay, get rid of the fluff.
Then you could have a step where the LLM rewrites keywords,
Okay.
maybe enhancing them with information from a web search.
Hmm.
And finally, you'd have that dedicated summarization step,
Right.
followed by an expansion phase to make the summary more readable.
So it's like creating an assembly line for information,
I like that.
with the LLM as the skilled worker at each station.
That's a great analogy.
Mhm.
And the benefits actually go beyond just improving the quality. This approach can also reduce processing time and costs, improve the precision of the output,
Yeah.
and even help mitigate issues like knowledge cutoff.
Knowledge cutoff, what's that?
That's where LLMs can struggle with information that's outside of their training data.
Oh, okay.
So you're kind of helping them along.
Okay. I'm definitely seeing the power of prompt chaining here.
It's a great technique.
But this level of complexity must introduce new challenges, right?
It does.
Especially when it comes to making sure everything is reliable.
You're absolutely right. Reliability is paramount.
It has to work.
Each stage in this process needs to be as robust as possible.
Yeah, no weak links.
That means thinking carefully about those potential points of failure,
Right.
like user input or those external data sources.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
And it means implementing validation mechanisms at every single step,
At every step.
just to make sure that data is accurate and consistent.
So it's like building in those safeguards
Yeah,
to catch any errors and keep the whole process flowing smoothly.
precisely. Tools like the moderation API, guardrails, and even structured output itself can be super valuable for mitigating risks and just making sure the LLM stays on track.
It's like you're giving it those guardrails.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot between control and adaptability.
Okay, control and adaptability. I like that.
And that brings us to another really crucial aspect of working with LLMs,
Okay, what's that?
managing your prompts effectively.
Prompts. They're so important, but they can get messy quickly.
They can, yeah.
How do we handle these really complex prompts, especially when they have dynamic values and keep everything organized within our code? It feels like it could get out of hand fast.
That's a challenge a lot of developers are struggling with.
Yeah, I bet.
Fortunately, there are frameworks like LangChain
Okay.
that offer these templating systems specifically for managing prompts.
Okay, so they help with that.
They give you the tools to create those reusable prompt templates,
Okay.
inject dynamic values, and keep your prompts organized and maintainable.
So it's like bringing the principles of software engineering
Yeah.
to the world of prompts.
Exactly. And the Quiver repository has some fantastic examples of LangChain in action.
Okay.
If you want to see how to leverage this framework effectively,
I'll have to check that out.
you should. It's really cool. But I've also heard that LangChain is still under development
Right. It's pretty new.
and has some limitations.
Okay, what are the drawbacks?
It's a powerful tool, but it's still early stages.
Yeah.
The documentation can be a bit sparse,
Okay.
and the API is still evolving, so it's important to approach it with a little bit of caution for now.
So what are the alternatives if LangChain isn't quite ready?
Well, you can always leverage those built-in language features,
Okay.
like template strings and tag templates in JavaScript,
Yeah.
to format your prompts in a more structured and efficient way.
Okay, so you've got options.
And regardless of which method you choose,
Right.
it's essential to treat your prompts with the same rigor you would any other code.
So that means things like version control, testing, documentation,
All of that.
really treat them like real code.
But it goes beyond that.
Okay.
Understanding those complex prompts embedded within your code,
Yeah.
that can be a real challenge.
Yeah. How do you keep track of all of that?
Fortunately, there are some new tools emerging
Okay.
to address this specifically.
What kind of tools?
Tools like LangFuse and Langsmith.
Okay.
They're designed to help developers visualize their LLM queries and code actions, edit and test prompts in this dedicated playground,
Oh, that's cool.
and even load prompts directly from their code
Okay.
for streamlined testing and version management.
Wow, it's like having X-ray vision into the world of prompts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it highlights the fact that managing those prompts effectively
Yeah.
is about so much more than just writing natural language.
Okay.
It needs a structured, engineering-driven approach to ensure reliability. Right.
Maintainability
Yeah.
and ultimately successfully integrating LLMs into your applications.
So prompts are way more than just those little text snippets.
They are.
They're an integral part of our code
Yeah,
that needs to be treated with care and precision.
absolutely.
And that brings us back to something we talked about earlier.
Okay.
The role of databases and search engines in LLM applications.
Yeah.
Can we dig into that a little bit deeper?
Absolutely. Remember when we talked about those essential skills?
Yeah.
Like working with databases and search engines?
Right back to the basics.
Well, those skills become even more crucial
Huh.
when you're building applications powered by LLMs.
So it's not just about the LLM itself.
Right.
It's about building this whole ecosystem to support it.
Exactly. Think of your database as that source of truth,
Okay, the source of truth.
holding all that information that the LLM needs to access and process.
Right.
And then think of the search engine as that specialized tool.
That allows the LLM to quickly and efficiently find the most relevant information within that massive database.
So they work together.
Precisely. The database might be a traditional relational database like PostgreSQL,
PostgreSQL, yeah.
or it could be something more specialized like a graph database.
Right. Different types of databases.
And then you might have a search engine like Qdrant,
Qdrant, okay.
which is specifically designed for working with vector embeddings.
Wait, vector embeddings, that's something we mentioned earlier, right?
You're right. It's a fascinating topic that deserves a bit more explanation.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Essentially, vector embeddings are a way to represent the meaning of text numerically.
Okay, so turning words into numbers.
Exactly. And this allows search engines to actually find information based on semantic similarity rather than just matching keywords.
So it's understanding the meaning behind the words.
Exactly.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
It is, yeah. And it allows for a lot more flexibility and accuracy in search.
Okay, so how does this all actually fit together in a practical sense? I'm trying to picture how this works.
Well, imagine you're building a chatbot
Okay, a chatbot.
that needs to access information from a vast knowledge base.
Right. So it needs to be able to find the right information.
You could store that knowledge base in a database
Okay.
and then use a search engine with vector embeddings
Okay.
to allow the chatbot to quickly and accurately find the most relevant information.
So when a user asks the chatbot a question,
Right.
the search engine kicks in and finds the best matching information from that database.
Exactly. And then the LLM uses that information to actually generate a response.
So it's finding the right information
Right.
and then using that to craft a response.
It's a powerful combination that allows LLMs to tap into these huge amounts of data
Yeah.
and provide really insightful and helpful responses.
It's like giving the LLM a superpowered research assistant.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It really highlights the importance of understanding how these different components,
Yeah.
databases, search engines, and LLMs all work together
All working together.
to create that cohesive and powerful application.
Okay, so we're not just throwing LLMs at problems. We're
Yeah.
building these whole ecosystems around them.
Exactly.
And as with any complex system, we need to be prepared to handle things when they go wrong.
Absolutely.
What are some of the unique challenges of error handling in the age of LLMs?
That's a crucial question,
Yeah.
and one that's often overlooked in the excitement of all this new technology.
I can see how that would happen.
LLMs actually introduced this whole new layer of complexity
Okay.
when it comes to error handling.
Why is that?
Well, because they're not always predictable, right?
Their output can vary.
Their output can vary.
And they can be sensitive to those little changes in input.
Exactly. So we have to deal with that inherent uncertainty of LLMs.
Okay, uncertainty.
But on top of that, we also have to contend with all the usual challenges
Right.
of working with APIs, external services, those complex data flows.
Yeah. So debugging becomes this whole new ballgame.
It does. But here's the good news.
Okay. There's the good news.
LLMs can actually help us with error handling too.
Oh, really? So they can help us fix their own mistakes.
In a way, yeah, they can analyze those request and response objects,
Okay.
identify potential problems, and even retry queries automatically.
So it's not all doom and gloom when it comes to errors.
No, we actually have some new tools to help us navigate those challenges.
Okay, so what can we do on the coding side?
Our code can definitely play a role.
Okay, good.
We can implement error handling logic using those traditional mechanisms like try, dot, catch blocks, but with that AI twist.
Okay, I'm curious. Can you give me an example of how that might work?
Absolutely. The source material describes this great example with a Spotify integration.
Spotify. Okay, cool.
Imagine an AI agent tries to play music, but Spotify is inactive on any device.
Okay, so you're trying to play music, but nothing's happening.
The error message from Spotify suggests trying to launch the application remotely. So the agent tries that, and if it's successful, boom, the music starts playing.
Okay, that's pretty clever.
But what if launching Spotify remotely doesn't work?
Right, what's the backup plan?
In that case, the agent would have asked the user for help.
Okay, so it knows when to ask for help.
Illustrating those dynamic error handling capabilities of these LLM-powered applications.
Wow, this is really opening my eyes to the potential of LLMs.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
It's not just about them replacing programmers.
Right, it's a partnership.
It's about this really interesting interplay between human ingenuity and artificial intelligence.
You've hit the nail on the head. This deep dive is all about understanding how to leverage both sides of that equation.
Both sides.
Human expertise and AI capabilities to build truly innovative and powerful applications.
Okay, so we've really dug into the technical side.
We have.
But I think it's important to step back and look at the bigger picture for a minute.
Yeah, the big picture.
What are the real-world implications of LLMs? How are they actually being used today? And what might the future hold?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
LLMs aren't just these theoretical concepts.
Right. They're out in the wild.
They're already having a huge impact on a wide range of industries.
Okay. I'm ready for some real-world examples. Hit me with them.
One area where LLMs are already making a big splash is customer service.
Customer service, okay.
Think about those chatbots you encounter on websites.
Yeah, I see those everywhere.
A lot of them are powered by LLMs now.
Really?
And they're getting more and more sophisticated all the time.
So it's not just about answering those really basic questions anymore.
Right, they're going way beyond that.
Can these AI-powered chatbots handle more complex inquiries?
They can, yeah.
Can they even provide, like, personalized recommendations?
Exactly. They can actually understand the nuances of human language.
Wow.
Access relevant information from knowledge bases. And they can even learn from past interactions.
So they're getting smarter.
To provide this more tailored and helpful experience.
It's like having an assistant who's always learning.
Right. And it frees up human agents to focus on those really complex issues or the ones that need that personal touch.
So it's a win-win.
Leading to better outcomes for both customers and employees.
That makes a lot of sense. What about other industries? Are there any surprising places where LLMs are already being used?
Absolutely. Take healthcare.
Healthcare. Wow.
LLMs are actually assisting doctors in diagnosing diseases,
Really?
analyzing medical images,
Wow.
even developing personalized treatment plans.
That's incredible. But I imagine there are some concerns about using AI in such a sensitive field.
Of course, any new technology comes with risks.
Right.
And it's super important to approach AI in healthcare with caution, with a focus on patient safety and privacy.
Of course.
But the potential benefits are huge.
Yeah, I can see that.
Imagine a world where doctors have access to AI-powered tools
Yeah.
that can help them make more accurate diagnoses, identify potential risks earlier,
Yeah.
and tailor those treatments to each patient's individual needs.
It's personalized medicine.
That's the promise of LLMs in healthcare.
It sounds like a game changer. Are there any other fields where LLMs are making a big impact? I'm really curious to hear more examples.
Absolutely. The world of finance.
Finance.
LLMs are rapidly changing things there.
How so?
They're being used to analyze market trends,
Okay.
detect fraudulent activity,
Catch those bad guys.
and even automate investment strategies.
Wow. So they're really changing the game in finance.
They are, and in manufacturing too.
Manufacturing, correct.
LLMs are optimizing production processes,
Okay.
predicting equipment failures,
So they can prevent problems before they happen.
and even helping to design new products.
It feels like LLMs are touching almost every aspect of our lives.
They really are.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this such an exciting and transformative time.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
But it's important to remember that with great power comes great responsibility.
That's Spider-Man, right?
Exactly. We need to be mindful of those potential downsides of LLMs
Okay.
and approach their development and deployment with a focus on ethics and social impact.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What are some things we need to be cautious about as we integrate LLMs into our world? What do we need to watch out for?
One key area is making sure that LLMs are used fairly and equitably.
Right. Fairness is really important.
Since they learn from the data they're trained on,
Yeah.
it's essential to make sure that data is diverse,
Diverse data.
representative, and free from bias.
Because if the data is biased, the LLM will just learn those biases and potentially make things worse.
Exactly. So we need to be really careful about the data we use to train these systems.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out.
And make sure they're not discriminating against certain groups of people.
Okay, so data quality is huge.
What about the impact on jobs?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
There's been a lot of talk about AI potentially displacing human workers.
Yeah, are the robots coming for our jobs?
It's a valid concern,
Yeah.
and one that we need to address head on.
So what can we do?
As LLMs get more capable,
Yeah, they're getting smarter all the time.
they will inevitably automate certain tasks that are currently done by humans.
Right.
But it's important to remember that this isn't necessarily a zero-sum game.
What do you mean by that?
It's not just a case of AI taking over human jobs,
Oh, okay.
while some jobs may be displaced.
Yeah.
New jobs and opportunities will also emerge.
So it's not just about job losses, it's also about job creation.
It's about adaptation and evolution. Just as the Industrial Revolution transformed the workforce,
Yeah.
AI will reshape the landscape of work as we know it.
So it's about being prepared for those changes.
Right.
And equipping ourselves with the skills and knowledge to thrive in this new era.
Exactly.
It sounds like the information we've been discussing in this deep dive is more crucial than ever.
I couldn't agree more. Understanding how LLMs work,
Yeah,
their potential benefits and risks,
right.
and those essential skills needed to leverage them effectively.
That's all connected.
It's all essential for navigating the future.
It feels like we're standing at the edge of this new frontier.
We are.
And having the right tools and knowledge will be essential for navigating this uncharted territory.
It's exciting time.
Speaking of uncharted territory, there's one more fascinating aspect of LLMs that I'd love to touch on.
Okay, what's that?
Their creative potential.
Ah, yes, the creative side of AI.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
It's really captivating, isn't it?
We've seen LLMs generating art,
Right.
composing music,
Yeah.
even writing poetry that can be surprisingly moving.
It's amazing what they can do.
It's almost like these systems are tapping into this hidden wellspring of creativity.
It really does feel that way.
But is it real creativity?
That's a great question.
Or are they just really good at mimicking the patterns they've learned from human-created data?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's one that philosophers and artists will be debating for years to come.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
But regardless of where you stand on that debate,
Right.
there's no denying that LLMs are pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
I find it both exciting and a little bit unnerving at the same time.
I understand that.
It's like LLMs are challenging our very definition of creativity.
That's a great way to put it. And it raises all these fascinating questions about the future of art, music, literature,
Right?
even storytelling.
What's it all going to look like?
Will LLMs become collaborators in that creative process? Will they eventually surpass human capabilities?
Wow.
These are questions we're only just starting to explore.
It's a lot to think about. I'm not ready to hand over the reins of creativity to AI just yet,
I hear you.
but I am really curious to see how this all unfolds.
Me too.
It feels like we're on the verge of something truly remarkable.
I agree. And that's what makes this field so compelling.
Yeah.
We're actually witnessing the birth of a new era.
A new era.
One where the lines between human and artificial intelligence are becoming increasingly blurred.
It's both exhilarating and a little bit daunting, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But I believe that by approaching this new era with curiosity,
Curious.
a commitment to ethical development,
Yeah.
and a focus on collaboration,
Those are all key.
we can harness the power of LLMs to create a better future for everyone.
I love that. What a fantastic way to wrap up this dip dive.
It's been fun.
It has. It's been an incredible journey exploring the technical side of LLMs, their real-world applications.
Yeah, we covered a lot.
The ethical dilemmas, and those profound implications for the future.
It's a big topic.
It's clear that we're just at the beginning of this AI revolution.
We are just getting started.
And the path ahead is filled with both challenges and opportunities.
For sure.
But what I've taken away from this deep dive, and I hope our listeners have too,
Yeah.
is that we're not just passive bystanders in this technological transformation.
Right, we have a role to play.
We have the power to shape the future of AI, to make sure it aligns with our values and serves the best interests of humanity.
Absolutely.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive. I encourage you to continue exploring the resources we've talked about.
Yeah, keep learning.
Stay curious and engage in this ongoing conversation about the future of AI.
It's an important conversation.
And remember, as we navigate this uncharted territory,
Yeah.
let's approach it with a sense of wonder
Wonder.
and a commitment to building a future that benefits all of us.
I like that.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep questioning.
See you next time.